Hello friends, hello family. Welcome back to the 80s Toy Museum. And today's review was decided on by the Patreon tribe who voted on the latest Patreon poll. There's a couple of other Origins items that I'll be taking a look at very soon, but this one goes to the top of the list. So thanks to everyone on Patreon for voting, and thanks to everyone on Patreon for just supporting the channel. Thanks for being part of the Patreon tribe. Take a look at the box before we crack it open. Really amazing artwork as usual. Man, I really don't want to get used to this artwork, but I feel as though I'm not gushing over it as much as I was on the early releases of this, just because I'm getting used to it, but shouldn't be. This is incredible. Top-notch art on all of the Origins box releases. Look at that guy right there, Duplicat. That was the PowerCon exclusive right there with Faker riding him. And there's Battle Armor He-Man. Second version of Battle Armor He-Man in Origins already. Castle Grayskull in the background. Shows off how to use the Battle Armor gimmick, exactly like the original release. And this is really, really cool. You get these little bonus dragons, but the cool part is the stand. The actual base part for Battle Cat. It's a strange thing to stick on the... take up the entire side of the box. One of the little critters is on this side, but it's odd to feature this guy. You'd think He-Man or Battle Cat would be on the side there. This base right here, beautiful. And I wish that toy companies today would go this route instead of that Build-A-Figure stuff. I can't tell you the last Build-A-Figure that I actually completed. It just doesn't matter. It's wasted extra plastic that stays in the package and never gets put to good use. And the base comes in two parts, really easy to fit together. You just gotta pop these two pieces in like that, and it's got a lot of give to it. It's not floppy like some of the weapons are. These weapons are actually made of fantastic plastic. This is top quality stuff. Even better than original vintage MOTU, which is generally too floppy. This feels like you can bend it a bit, but you won't snap it. The base is made of the exact same material as the base that came with Stridor and the new Castle Grayskull too. Doesn't look like there's an actual spot to hook it up to Castle Grayskull. It's fine by me though. It just looks awesome when everything is set up on it, which I will do in a minute. But here is the complete set. You get a Battle Cat. Major difference is that he's got some actual battle damage on him. Some scrape marks, bloody scrape marks. You get Battle Armor He-Man again in case you missed the first release of him. This one's a little different though. Glorious, shiny 80s chrome. Just stunning, beautiful. Same torso, it's just a repaint. It's like the other one. You can now, normally I would be smashing this guy and getting the gimmick to go, but because this is such nice chrome on it, I don't want to chip it and scratch it because chrome is more delicate than most paints. Like all the other Battle Armor gimmicks, you give it a good shot and it spins once. It's like a knuckle impression. Give it another shot. Takes a little more impact actually than I remember the original one needing, and you get that double knuckle impact. And this He-Man has some battle damage as well. He's got a big gash right there. Big gash right there. He comes with a couple of heads. Two heads. He's got the vintage style head that came with the original Battle Armor He-Man, as well as the running change of the original He-Man, with a little cut on his face. And this head is spectacular. Here's a look at the little dragon dudes too. I don't know what these guys are, what they reference, but they're really floppy. Actually, yeah, he's got like a little grip hand, so I guess you can stick him on Castle Grayskull. The box depicts them scaling Castle Grayskull, but I couldn't really get them flat-footed climbing the side of the castle, either the Origins or the vintage one. their feet kind of stick up in the air if they're gripping the edge of the castle. It's an interesting extra to include, but I don't really like the look of them climbing the castle. It makes the castle look infested instead of a big, powerful, magical place. It looks like they've got a, whatever these things are, problem, and they need to fumigate. Anyway, the main course of the set is He-Man and Battle Cat, and I was going to do a switcheroo originally, both with the original Battle Armor He-Man from Origins as well as the original Origins Battle Cat. This armor is looking too dull to me, so what I wanted to do was take this really, really nice, shiny armor on this set and pop it onto that Battle Cat. This isn't just made out of shiny plastic. It's actually got a really beautiful, glossy paint job with just the slightest, subtlest metallic sheen to it. It's difficult to see unless it's actually really up close, but there is just, you can almost see it right there, like a metallic, slight, subtle, like pearlescent, opalescent, metallic sheen to it, and it is just absolutely beautiful in person. So my plan was, because it's the exact same Battle Cat as the original Origins Battle Cat, and comparing the armor pieces, this one really looks kind of dull and boring compared to this technique they've used of this like slight metal sheen to it. Same goes for the actual body armor of the cats. So the battle damage, I'm not a fan of it, and that's just a He-Man thing for me. I don't mind battle damage at all. Cuts, scrapes on other toys if it's appropriate. Like, I never look at a T-800 from T2 and think, oh, gross, blood. I mean, that's just part of the character. He-Man, especially Lou Scheimer's He-Man, was always so wholesome and not about the violence that it just seems to really clash. It seems out of place. And I know that the comics were a little bit more violent than the show was, but it's just kind of doesn't work for me, brother. So what I was planning on doing, take the armor off of this one, put it onto this one, take the body of this one and set it aside. And my plan was to also take this dude right here and use his arms and legs for this dude, because it's the exact same story. He-Man with scrapes and cuts, it just, I don't know. On a 2000X guy, or up here, sure. I mean, those sculpts by the Four Horsemen are more realistic looking, more what you would see in a live action movie, and I could buy that. But this is just so 1982 looking, like kid's toy. Really harkens back to those original Masters of the Universe figures. A big bloody gash on a toy that is just so pure fun harkens back to days of nostalgia, childhood days. I don't know, am I the only one here? I'm sure many people dig the blood and they don't care, but seeing a bloody gash on this vintage head, it just seems out of place to me. So my plan was to do the old switcheroo, and then much to my surprise, this is all that's removable on this Battle Armor He-Man. I wanted to use that gorgeous chrome, so to get rid of the bloody leg and the bloody arm, just take the arms off of this guy, pop them onto there, take the legs, pop them off. But you can't do that. You can remove the waist, I believe. It says that piece is removable right there. But the arms are not actually removable on this He-Man. So you're either stuck with a bloody gash on his arm or pull out the rubbing alcohol and Q-tip or something like that and try to rub that off. Yeah, that comes apart fairly easily. So you could easily swap out the lower half for this guy, but the fact that you can't just easily pull out the arms, and I've tried very hard and they don't come out. Maybe I could try a little bit harder. I don't know. As always, I don't want to break it. So you let me know in the comments if you've been able to pull the arms off of your guy without breaking him. Then I'd love to be able to use this chrome body on this He-Man. But as it stands, I guess he's just going to stay bloody that way. And some comparisons of the accessories. Swords look almost identical, but this guy, just like Battle Cat's paint job on his armor, it's got ever so slight, very, very subtle metallic fleck in the paint. And with so many things in toys these days being not subtle at all, being over the top, I am digging that very, very slight metallic fleck in there. The axe has the exact same type of sheen to it, and it's so much nicer than the axe that came with the original He-Man, Origins He-Man. The axe from the original Origins He-Man is the same color as the harness. It's kind of like a bluish gray, and it's dull. And this one is a lighter gray and got the little speckle, silver speckles in it. Same story with the shield. Very, very nice. Much nicer than that shield right there. And he comes with a couple of body parts too. Comes with an open hand if you want to swap out his left hand to have it open like the original He-Man had. And this head is incredible. It is like wind-swept hair. So one of the issues with the vintage He-Man head and just vintage He-Man in general is his hairstyle. He's got this kind of Dutch boy looking hairstyle. And that's what it is. He's got long hair on the sides, his bangs are cut. That's just He-Man's hairstyle. They've tried to change it up in a few different incarnations, most notably 2000X, and you know, as much as the hairstyle seems outdated, it's just his hairstyle. You can't change it. You can't give He-Man a ponytail or, you know, a mohawk or anything. It's just his hairstyle. So he's stuck with it. And, you know, we just accept it. But one way around it is windswept. And that's just absolutely awesome. Awesome sculpt. This right here is my favorite Origins He-Man head sculpt so far. So since you know, I'm not really a fan of the bloody marks on MOTU vintage looking figures, just to be specific, vintage MOTU, which is what these look a lot like, I'll go with this head. And this head in particular looks especially nice when Battle Cat is on this stand right here with his paws up, kind of in pouncing action. I'm going to armor him up with his shield, heads up. The part that attaches to the forearm, I got a stress mark right there. So in order to clip it to his forearm, that's what's going to happen. I don't care. And he's actually got a loop on his back, which the original Battle Armor He-Man did not have. So you can have his sword back there. I think you can fit the axe back there too. But you know, for me personally, Battle Armor He-Man has always had the axe. That's been Battle Armor He-Man's weapon of choice. And awesome little spot to store the sword. It's almost like She-Ra in my mind. You know, She-Ra's sword could turn into a shield or turn into a lasso. I kind of always imagined the Sword of Power turning into the battle armor. So then if He-Man wanted a hand weapon, he'd have to pull out the axe. Kind of like that idea of the armor being the power sword. Let's stick him up on Battle Cat. This Battle Cat is exactly the same mold as the original Origins Battle Cat, so he's got the same problems too. I am just perpetually wishing that he had a little wrist swivel there. So much more than the original Origins Battle Cat, because this guy has this stand that I want him to just be flat-footed on everywhere, and it's hard to make it happen. But having Battle Cat perched up on these stones and He-Man up in the harness with the axe drawn ready, you can just imagine the wind howling. I never thought that a vintage-looking He-Man on a Battle Cat could look this intense. Really nice display altogether. The stand, the cat, He-Man, the head, the gorgeous shiny chrome. Really, for me, the only thing that takes away from it is the scratches. If only the cuts and scrapes and scratches weren't on there, I wouldn't touch this thing. It would just be good to go, and that would be my Battle Armor He-Man of choice. But as it stands, it's good for parts, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with all these parts of the set. So first of all, get rid of this original dull looking armor, and we're going to use that cat since he doesn't have all of the battle damage. Second of all, I'm going to take the armor off of this one, and this one can go to the vet to get all bandaged up. And up next, as much as I like this vintage style head, I love this windswept hairdo so much better. And stick this on the original version. And this next part is a toss-up. This is a really, really nice power sword, and it doesn't have that little part on the end like the original one does. So it's a toss-up, but I think I'm going to go with the original style Origins purple and gray combiner sword, just because it's vintage nostalgia for me. And even though it doesn't want to stay in the hand very well. Here we go. Lose the original shield and give him the new one, and give him the metallic looking axe as well. And the final piece is the lightning blast from the original Battle Armor He-Man. It's a beautiful looking Battle Cat, beautiful looking stand. This is an awesome thing for people who, not hardcore fanatics, but I hear from a lot of people who say, I used to have that, and they don't have much, or they don't have anything. But they say, that He-Man meant a lot to me. My mom got that for me, and, maybe she passed away not too long ago, or maybe grandma got it for me, and she's been gone for some time, and they'd like to have that little memory of their childhood as well as that loved one that got it for them. But it's hundreds of dollars to track it down on eBay or at a convention or a local comic shop. You can get a He-Man and a Battle Cat now, very, very similar to what you had, for a fraction of what it would cost if you got like an original vintage one. And I think that's the important thing to remember when it comes to these vintage style, vintage inspired modern lines, is that you don't have to love it, but someone else out there, it might be within their budget, and it might really, really be a special piece to them, unlock a really special memory. Certainly does for me. Reminds me of my mom buying me the original He-Man, and this is a pose the original one couldn't do, but I imagined him doing this all the time, and it's just kind of freaky all these years later to have a toy that looks just like that original one, to actually be able to do that pose. So what do I do with the extras? Well, I got this Battle Cat with the dull armor, which I guess you could say makes more sense. Why would scuffed up, cut up, battle damaged Battle Cat have nice shiny armor? Some of that original Battle Cat artwork depicted the helmet just sitting beside him, so that might actually, if you end up with two Battle Cats, in order to cut down on repetitiveness, just take the helmet off of one. It's unfortunate that the eyes are visible, so I guess you could just turn it the other way so that the eyes aren't visible. And that way you can reveal the head sculpt, mouth open or mouth closed. And an extra piece that you can add that I think looks really cool on this version of Battle Armor He-Man is the Ultimate Warrior cape that came with the second version of the He-Man WWE crossover Ultimate Warrior figure. Warrior is not a cape guy to me. He's a running guy, and I don't picture guys who run a lot and run fast wearing capes. So I took the cape off of this Warrior. Oh, feel the power! And I think it actually looks really cool on this He-Man figure. You do lose the ability to store the sword, unfortunately, but you actually do get some range here, a lot more than the Warrior had when he's wearing the exact same cape. So he can still look up, look down, but this is what this Battle Armor